Do you have a big interview coming up? Well, if you do, this is the perfect coaching for you. Hi everyone, my name is Leigh, aka HRManifesto, and this is an interview anxiety coaching. So how do you combat those interview nerves? We're going to talk about that in this video. I'm a 15-year HR professional who has sat on both sides of that interview table upwards of 1,000+ times. You lose count after a while, but I certainly consider myself an expert in interviewing. And so these tips that I have for you today are just a culmination of all of those learnings. I'm going to share them with you. All right. So first things first, anxiety and nerves in an interview. Where do they come from? Well, a lot of it is just the fear of the unknown and what's going to happen. Most of us are not experts in interviewing or talent acquisition professionals, HR professionals, hiring managers that do a lot of high volume recruiting. So we don't do it every day, right? It's very, very unfamiliar. So it's totally normal and natural that, yeah, it's a nerve-wracking experience. On top of that, there may be this pressure or this stress that you put on yourself because, this is your dream job, or this is a huge promotion, or gosh, I really want to escape the last place or my current place. I got to get out of here, right? So it's just all this anxiety around the event of doing the interview because of what it could lead to, right? You want to get there. So you're anxious about the future state. That's a huge one. And then on top of that, I'd say a lot of people, most of us, we're always a little anxious or nervous just meeting new people. And that's exactly what an interview is. It's a conversation between really two strangers. More likely than not, right? So again, being anxious or nervous in an interview is completely and totally normal. In fact, your interviewers may be anxious and nervous as well. They want to put the right foot forward for their organization. They want to make sure that you're comfortable. And again, they're human beings meeting new people. So they could be introverts or antisocial or you name it. And they're meeting new people could be hard for them as well. So take note of that totally normal for even both parties to have a little anxiety and nerves in an interview situation. All right, now on to the tips. First and foremost, be prepared. Preparation means everything. Yes, the interview is about the subject matter you know best, which is you, thank goodness. But it's still wonderful to be able to take your resume, review it, understand it inside out, refresh, make sure you remember all these things that happen in your career, right? And then put them in a STAR format. So most interviewers are going to ask behavioral based questions. They're going to ask for examples about a time you did X, Y, and Z. They won't be just yes and no questions. And so write out some of those answers. Take an accomplishment and write it out in the STAR format. Give the situation, give the task, give the action, give the results, write that all out, do a handful of those, just so you could be prepared kind of with an answer bank for the interview itself. And then you are absolutely welcome to take that into an interview as a cheat sheet. You can do that in interviews. You can have pages of notes like I do right here. I've got a page of notes to help me through this video. It's totally fine. This isn't a high school exam. It's not the SATs, right? So feel free to have a page of notes or your top 10 career accomplishments or things you want to highlight, things you want to make sure you say or get across in the interview. Prepare that, right? Get that all ready to go for the interview, and then you can keep it for subsequent interviews as well, so not a problem at all having a cheat sheet, but definitely prepare in that manner. And then don't forget to practice these answers, right? Have a partner or family member or friend or whoever help you, or you can just do it in the mirror as well. Go through it, quiz yourself, right? Just so you get kind of in the motion of how you would answer something. Say it actually out loud, so practice absolutely does make perfect when it comes to interviewing. Ooh, absolutely. Inject perspective into the process. And what do I mean by this? I mean a few things by this. Let me walk you through my top ones. First and foremost, remember that you're both human, you and the interviewer. So as I mentioned before, the interviewer may be nervous as well. Why? Because we're new people meeting each other, and that can be an anxious sort of experience and event. So they're human as well. They may mess up on the things they say. They may pause. They may not be clear in the way they ask a question. They may be awkward. Who knows? They're human as well, just like you are. So you give them grace. Hopefully they give you grace. Nobody's perfect in the situation. Another thing to have a good perspective on is the fact that if you were to not get this job, it's not the end of the world. So don't put so much into this one interview, right? Don't put the weight of the world anyway into this one interview. It's okay. You will survive. This isn't a life or death thing, right? And so if you don't get the job, that's okay. Maybe you'll get the next job, right? So keep an open mind, stay positive, but don't put all that additional pressure and stress of, gosh, if I don't get this, I'll just die. You won't, right? So it's okay. Another important thing to have perspective on, remember that it's really just a conversation. An interview is just a dialogue between two people, right? Between a couple of people, a few people if there's a panel. But that's all it is. It's just a dialogue where people are getting to know each other better. It is not an interrogation. It's not a test. So don't worry about that. It's really just a conversation where ultimately the two parties, the two sides, are just trying to see if they can work together. Is there chemistry? Is there cultural fit? Is there rapport in some way? Because you would not be getting that interview if you weren't already qualified for the job. There's no mercy or pity interviews out there. There just isn't. People do not have that type of time. So the organization already believes that, gosh, you'd be a great fit on paper. You're totally qualified to do it. Now they just want to hear a little more about that. Some wonderful, awesome examples of you shining in your past. And then they really just want to see, can I work with this person, right? So that's what it's about there. And then finally, remember from a perspective that you're interviewing them too. It's not just one way. So when it comes to fit, it's not all about them just kind of sitting back and judging, yeah, I want to work with that person. I think they'd fit here culturally. It's you picking up on all the behaviors, the cues, the language, how they say things, what they say, all of these things, how they answer your questions. It's you also as the interviewee determining, God, are these people I want to work with? Is this a place I want to work for? So remember that hey, it's a conversation between people that are seeing if they want to work with each other, but you are also interviewing them. So make sure you come with a whole bunch of questions, right? Because you don't want to be caught somewhere that you ultimately may not be happy in, right? All right. And last but not least, my third tip here is lean into the nerves. The times that I've been in an interview and the person that I was interviewing was just so stressed out. They were ultimately ultra focused on the fact that they were nervous, right? And I think the few times it appeared as though they felt they should hide that. And they would continuously point it out. I'm so nervous, and look at me, I can't stop shaking. This is so embarrassing. I can't do this right. I'm sorry, I'm a terrible interviewer. They were just very, hyper focused on the fact that, for them, they were failing at the interview. Now, what's interesting is that being on the other side of the table, it does not look as bad as it feels to the other party, right? Like most of what's happening from a nerves perspective, it's happening in your chest is pounding, your palms are sweaty, you may be a little clammy, but it's always worse inside, right? It always is worse inside, to where a lot of times externally, no one even realizes that you are having a freaky outie. You know what I mean? That's happened to me where I've gone and I've presented or whatever, and I thought, oh my goodness, because I was so nervous inside, that must have come out, but it really didn't. And so when it comes to interviewing, you should lean into those nerves. You should try as much as you can to shift it to adrenaline, right? It's already adrenaline, but you know what I mean? You should shift it to something positive. Use those nerves to just show that you're so excited for the job, right? And you're leaning in and you're smiling and you're engaged in the conversation and you're asking questions. As much as possible, turn it into an energy for good, as opposed to go to the dark side with it where you're really letting it show and you're hyper focused on it, and you think that the other party knows that you're focused on it as well, and that they can see just how nervous you are, right? Instead, mask that nervous energy as just excitement for the job, because I'll tell you, no one, and I'm reflecting now, no one in my 15 years ever looked too excited for a job, right? You know, when someone comes in and interviews with you, you want them to be excited and happy to be there, right? You want them to work with you, you know, that's how it starts. And so it's always awesome when people want to work where you work. And so again, you know, use those nerves for good. Know that no one else recognizes that you're having a freaky outie, most likely. They may tell you're a little nervous, but they're not seeing what you're feeling, right? So use those powers for good. Smile, be engaged, lean in. You can use your hands just like you would talk in a normal conversation, because again, you're just in a conversation. You can do things like this. But as much as you can, lean in and turn those nerves positive, right? Just put yourself in a positive mindset. And whatever you do not say, I'm so nervous, oh my gosh, I can't, like, you don't have to focus on it. You don't have to make excuses for it, because again, it's an event. An interview is an event where it's normal for all parties to be a little nervous. Is totally fine. So try not to get hyper focused on it. Try to lean into those nerves and just harness their power for good to just propel you through that interview. I've had ones like that where there were just huge interviews, and it's like, I'm just going to use this anxiety for good and stay as positive as possible. I'm going to smile. I'm going to stay engaged. I'm going to look just really excited about the job though, because I'm so freaking nervous. And that's okay, because it'll come off as just kind of awesome excitement to the interviewers. That probably hype them up too. And then you're leaving a great impression that, wow, that person's super engaged. They're friendly. They really want to work here. How cool is that, right? All right. So those are my top tips for trying to combat those interview nerves. Based on 15 plus years of working in HR, there's 1,000 other little tips too, but boy, these are the big ones for me that I see make the most difference, the biggest difference, and drive people to interview success and ultimately get the job when they focus on these 3 things. I hope that was helpful. Please follow, please subscribe, please share. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.